Okay, folks, 10 more books that I think won't change the world, won't change your life, but may end up being classics or are classics. First, Ivory Extraordinaire. You know how there are science fiction time traveling stories about guys who go on safari to hunt dinosaurs and stuff? This is actually parallel universes where most of the niches in nature have been filled up by other animals, mostly elephants that go on safari hunts. But there's also giant killed birds, stuff like that. It's made by an author who's probably not well known, but I'm definitely sure it's going to end up being a classic. I suggest you looking up on Amazon.com for it. A classic, Treasure Island, that I don't think actually a lot of people read. You all watch the movies, there's Walt Disney, there's Muppets, but how many of you actually read this book? David Drake, science fiction classic, Ranks of Bronze. You know, if you read his stuff, it's Hammer Slammers, mercenary stuff, military stuff, but he also likes Rome, and a lot of his books and short stories were on Rome. This is one of the more famous ones. Another classic, Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End. This is about mankind evolving and leaving the planet. It's probably one of the well-known ones, but most people know him as 2001. So if you're going to start getting into the classics and the old books, I would suggest this one. Another classic by somebody you might not know, Frederick here. Gem is a classic utopia sci-fi. He's not as well known, I think, basically because some science fiction authors are famous for a certain period. A lot of their stuff deals with stuff happening right then and there. A lot of his books are about interaction between societies and cultures, and does have to do a lot about. One of them had to do with communism. So I think he's a Cold War writer. But he did also write Man Plus, which is kind of famous sci-fi. The idea you change the human being to fit the environment as opposed to terraforming the environment to fit the human being. Another classic, Little House on the Prairie. Well, this is the Little House in the Big Woods. This is actually the first of the series. I would strongly suggest it. My mom actually taught me how to read with this one of these books. Not this one, but it's one of the books she read. And when I was a kid, she's trying to get me to read. This is one of the books she had me read. Now, there is actually a cookbook for the Little House on the Prairie series, the Little House series, I think they're called. But that would be too logical a link, so I'm going to do the log cabin cooking. Lots of recipes about log cabin cooking and pioneer cooking and mountain men and all that stuff, which is actually, a lot of these have cheats, different ingredients, which actually nowadays, when things are a little more expensive, going to the old-time cooking isn't that bad an idea. I even have a cookbook on depression cooking. Another classic, Robert's Guide to Butlers and Household Staff. Once again, a lot of little hints about how to cook and save money, but I don't suggest using Quicksilver to clean the silver. Mercury isn't really good for you, but it's still also a historical reference. Funny, actually. A classic, Geisha, A Life. Memoirs of a Geisha, that was made in a movie that's fictional. The woman who wrote this, actually, when she heard about that book coming out, the movie coming out, she became very upset and decided to write real life autobiography. So this is a real geisha, and at least from her point of view, what geishas are like and history of geishas. She's met a few very important people. Prince Charles, when he was a prince. And last but not least, this is probably not really a classic now, but it might be, Art Under Control in North Korea. It's actually very interesting. It talks about art used as propaganda, education, and so on. And it shows, in a way, history of North Korea because it shows how the art was changed after a certain point of time. The relationships with Russia was bad or good. The relationship with China was bad or good. What the goals were, so on and so forth. And this really does give you a history of North Korea through the artwork. And I kind of think it's more important than ever to know North Korea right now, considering the power struggle that might happen in the near future. Okay?